Hi there, and welcome to this lecture. In this video, we will explore variable scopes. In previous lecture, we saw how we can use subroutines, and we also noticed that if you define my and then the variable, and then my variable inside the subroutine, those names will not clash, because there is a difference between scopes. When you would try to define a variable twice with the same name in the same scope, for example, in this file you're currently looking at, you will get a warning. These differences are called global scope and local scope. We saw the my keyword. I can say my var equals value 1. However, there is another way how you can define your variables, and that is by using or keyword. So we can say or variable equals 1. I can print it out by saying print dumper var. Now if I go to console and type Perl script.pl, I'm going to see variable 1. On surface, this might not be visible why it might be useful. So let's explore where this actually does come handy. And that is when we're trying to use a script in another script. We will look into future lectures of how we can use and require files and what is the difference between these two. But for now, let's just create a new file through new file and call it script2.pl. What we can do, we can go back to our script file and let's copy everything. What do you see here? On my Mac, I'm using Command C and I'm going to go into script2, paste that all in. I'm going to print hello from script2. Save it up, go to my script, the original script one, and I'm going to use this special keyword which is called require, and I'm going to require my script2 file. Since my script2 file is currently next to my script.pl, I can use dot notation / which says use the relative path to this folder and script2.pl and end it with semicolon. I'm going to remove these values for now. I'm going to save script.pl. I'm going to go back to the console. I'm going to run the script.pl, which is Perl script.pl. What I'm going to see is hello from script2. So that means that when we required this file, the script2, we actually got the print statement invoked. But what if, for example, we had some variables we wanted to use in our script2? Let's say this variable is called my script2 underscore var equals secret. So if I save this, and I'm actually going to comment out this hello from script2, go back to script1, and I will try to do print script2 underscore var, save this, go to the console. I'm going to say global symbol script2 var requires explicit package name, it hasn't been declared, but it's strange because we are requiring script2 and there is a variable script2 underscore var. So why is it complaining? Well, again, it's due to the scope. So by default, if you use my keyword, the scope is currently to this file. This variable is not exposed to the script.pl file. Now, if we wanted to expose this variable to script2, this is where the or keyword comes into play. We can change my to or, go back to script.pl, try to rerun. However, as you can see, it's still not working. So another thing we need to do is we need to explicitly define that we want to pull in this variable from script2 file. Otherwise, we're going to get this warning. And this is because of the progmas. You need to be explicitly requiring this variable so there is no confusion whatsoever. And you can do this by saying or brackets for a list of variables we might want to define. And I'm going to say I want my script2 underscore var, save it, go back to the console, try to run the Perl script file again, and it works. What we got here is we said print script2 var, which holds a string called secret, and this is in script2. So we actually could access the variable 2 by explicitly saying we want to use globally scoped variable called script2 var, and we want to pull this into this script and print it out from this file. Now in last lecture, what we saw was this use feature and subroutines. But we can use another feature, which is called state. And state is a special keyword used before your variables, which tells your script that this variable should be initialized once and only once in a memory throughout the execution of script. What do I mean by that? Well, if we try to introduce a subroutine, let's say test and curly brackets, and let's say I want to say my var, which is a scalar, equals 1, and I'm going to print out var plus 1 and concatenate it with new line. So if I call this function test, save it, go to the console, I'm gonna see 2. A little bit nudge there, so let's maybe add a string before that, concatenate that, and go back to the console. Oh, of course, because now we need to wrap it in brackets to explicitly define that we have a string context, we want to concatenate with a context where we're actually adding numbers, and then concatenate that context with a new line. So you can use parentheses to kind of isolate your context. So if we go to console, try to print it again, we're going to see greater than and 2. And what if we want to recall this function many times? We run it again, you can say 22222. And this is because every single time we're using my in a code block, this variable is initialized each time we call the test function. But what if we didn't want to do that? What if we actually wanted to initialize this variable only once and keep track of this value every time we execute this function? Well, we can use the keyword state. So if I replace my with state, save the file, go to the console and rerun or test functions, which are being called 5 times, and we actually need to change things up. If we think about it, the value didn't change because we are saying variable equals 1, and that was initialized once, but we are adding variable plus 1 and not increasing it. We're just adding 1 to variable and then printing it out. It's not actually setting that variable to higher number. So how we can increase that number is by removing this and saying variable, just concatenate it. And here we want to do var plus equals 1. If we save this, the script, so now we're going to see 2, 3, 4, 5. And just to verify that it actually works as expected, if I change state to my, save it, we run it, it's going to say 222, as I mentioned before. Using my declaration, every time we enter this code block, it sets it to 1, increments it by 1, and then prints it out. Using state, if I change it back, we initialize it once to number 1, and we keep incrementing this variable, which is defined once in the memory. And if I rerun this again, we can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, where can this be useful? You might find yourself in scenarios where you're creating maps, lookup maps of some keys, values, which are never going to change in your program, such as translations or special use case mappings. In this case, you don't really want to initialize your map every single time. What I mean by this, you could say state map equals A1, B equals 2, and C equals 3. And if I wanted to simply print what's in the map by accessing what was passed into arguments, so we're going to use the $ underscore, remember, because all the arguments are in @ underscore, and to access a single element, we could use $ underscore, and then square brackets, which is the first argument. So if we just wanted to print out the first argument from this map, we can use state because this is never going to change. A is going to be pointing to 1. C is going to always be pointing to 3 in this scenario. And if we remove this and add, let's say, A to print out, yes, looks like we are actually saying that this is a hash using arrayref syntax. So we should be using braces. If I move this into here, set up, remove the curly brackets and rerun it, forget the semicolon, and this is good. It's always good to read your errors. In this case, I did not add a semicolon. On line 19, it says that there was an error, we couldn't print it, and this is because there was no semicolon added on line 17. And it actually gives you a suggestion where it says syntax error on line 20 near curly bracket, which refers back to previous error, or map wasn't defined. Well, it was defined, but it wasn't defined properly. If we save it, go back to the console, rerun it, we can see number 1. So this is it for this video. We looked at different scopes and how you would apply them in practice. We saw scenarios where you might want to use OR keyword when requiring multiple scripts, or you might consider using state keyword to initialize your data once and only once in memory for execution of your script lifetime. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you at the next one.